Hey guys, it's ExandShadow here with another Ramble for you guys. Now, normally I usually go over like a game that I've played or a movie that I've seen when I'm doing these, but I'm gonna do something a little bit different this time and talk about some manga that I've been reading recently. Now, I've never really been much of a comics guy. Around the time the DC Universe reboot shit happened, I tried to get into it, but I just couldn't do it. You know, the stuff that was easiest to get into, DC. Well, I don't really care for any of the DC characters, and trying to jump into a Marvel continuity would just take too much effort. So, you know what? I just forgot. I just said forget it. However, manga at the time really interested me because it's generally easier to jump into because you don't have to deal with all this continuity bullshit. So, you know, I picked up a few issues of the Pokemon Black and White Adventures manga about a year ago, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I was having fun. I was reading it. It was good. I liked it. So, you know, after a while, I just sort of forgot about it. But when I was just wandering around on Amazon, I saw box sets for the Pokemon Adventures manga for the Red, Blue, and Yellow, and Gold, Silver, and Crystal sagas. So, on a whim, I just said, why the fuck not? I ordered them. I got them about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I read them through, and I had a lot of fun reading these manga box sets. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Pokemon Adventures is, no, I think it's called Pokemon Special in Japan. It's basically a manga retelling of the stories from the games that the sagas are based off of. So, you know, the Red, Blue, and Yellow saga is a retelling of Red, Blue, and Yellow's story. Gold, Silver, and Crystal is Gold, Silver, and Crystal stories. Now, they take several very large liberties with the stories in these games because, there are characters that are, you know, there are characters in here that didn't exist before. You know, they definitely play loose with the Pokemon rules. Like they do shit that you can't do in the games. But I find it a little bit more tolerable on that front than the anime was, because the anime was just all sorts of the anime didn't know if it wanted to be consistent with the game rules or inconsistent with them. Here they in the manga they're based off of the rules from the game, but they can bend them. It's always been flexible. In the anime, it's either strict to the rules or completely out there. So I like how consistent it is here. And overall, I think that the Pokemon Adventures manga is a very, very enjoyable read. First off, every main character, there are 3 main characters in the sagas. The first one is Red. You know, Red from you all know Red. That's volumes 1 through 3. The volumes, well, actually, there are 4 main characters. Well, kinda. But the second main character is Yellow, and that's volumes 4 through 7. And the last main character is Gold, from Gold and Silver, and Crystal also acts as a main character for sort of the middle of the saga. But what I like about this series is that every main character has their own definable personality traits. Like, you know, you got Red, who's pretty much how you would expect him to be. But Yellow is, like, very pacifistic. You got Gold, who's just very, very out there. And then you've got Crystal, who's out there in a different sort of way. Every character is very distinct, which I like. If there's one thing that Pokemon has had a hard time doing for a while, is making its characters feel distinct, and the manga does a very good job at doing that. I really liked seeing all the characters because I knew they all had a different personality. They were fun to be around. Yeah, the art's all pretty good too. I'm not really an artist, so I couldn't really figure if there was any sort of major problems, but the art was very close to the art from the games. You know, the stuff you'd see in promotional materials and stuff. So, you know what, I always enjoyed looking at the art. It's very well drawn. Very well written, too. There's a lot of very funny jokes that actually it manages to poke fun at the source material at times. Like, in the Gold, Silver, Crystal saga, they make fun of how creepy it is that random people are giving you their phone calls. And they make fun of how you name your own rival by having Gold draw a picture of Silver that's really fat and bucktooth and with tiny eyes. It's just very well written. And if you're a Pokemon fan, I would recommend these box sets. I would highly recommend these box sets. These are a fantastic read. Now, if I had to critique things, pacing is always a little bit wonky with these sorts of things. Like, for the Red, Blue, Yellow saga, the first 3 volumes is all of Red, Blue, and Yellow story, and the last 4 is a completely separate original story. That sort of means that the original story from Red, Blue, and Yellow is very compressed. After you, from Volume 4 on, the pacing gets much better, but there are some points where you kind of, want the main plot to pick up. Like, in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, there's one point where Gold and Silver get kidnapped, or they get defeated in a battle, and you don't really know what happens to them. And then you spend like a good 3 volumes following Crystal around, who's a completely different character, and then you finally get to see what happened to Gold and Silver. So, there's some pacing issues throughout. Some of the villains aren't really developed, aren't given a lot of development, but the problems I have with these are minor, and I still really enjoyed reading these volumes. So, box sets, I think you can still find them on Amazon. If you find them for cheap, go for it. These are a fantastic read, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, after reading the Gold and Silver box set, I kind of got another interest in anime. I kind of got back into anime, not anime, manga. I kind of got back into a manga. So I'm picking up a couple of volumes here and there, reading them, enjoying them. So I went to Barnes and Noble. And I found, I was just sort of browsing on a whim, and I actually managed to find the Azumanga Daioh Omnibus, which is pretty much every bit of Azumanga Daioh manga that has ever been, I think this is all of it, and it's all in one book. And I think it was only like $20, so, this is a very great find for me. This is a recommendation that Ryan gave to me, because he said, if you ever want something funny to read or watch, check out Azumanga Daioh. So I kept that in the back of my head. I saw this big book on the shelf for relatively cheap, and I figured, why not? I'll give it a shot. And I actually really, really enjoyed it. Basically, it's a high school manga, written kind of differently than normal. It's sort of like, I guess this is sort of the Japanese equivalent of a newspaper comic, I guess, because there's four panels, and each with a little joke at the end. They sort of make little tiny storylines that just Ryan said that it's kind of like Japanese Peanuts, and I think that's a good description. This is a very, very funny book. I laughed my ass off the entire time reading it. I had a lot of fun reading this one. It's just very well written, and the characters are all very distinct. They all have great personalities. It's just a fun read. There's not a whole lot I can say about Azumanga Daioh, because I'm pretty sure you all have heard of it, at least heard of it. It's a funny collection. I really enjoyed reading this. I was laughing my ass off the entire time. I really enjoyed this. And lastly, the last bit of manga that I picked up recently were 2 copies of the Miles Edgeworth Ace Attorney Investigations manga sets. I think there's only 2 volumes out right now, but there probably will be more soon. I'll make sure to pick up the other 2. I have all of the Phoenix Wright volumes as well, so I'm gonna just correlate my opinions of those with my opinions of these, because they all have the same strengths and weaknesses. So, yeah. Now, if you're an Ace Attorney Investigations, I should actually just say Ace Attorney fan in general, I would recommend picking the manga sets up, because they're an enjoyable read for a fan of the series. The art is a little bit wonky here. I don't really, it's not bad. It just, the art, you can kind of tell that it's not the guy who does Ace Attorney art. It's someone else. You can tell that it's someone trying to mimic the Ace Attorney style, which is a little bit jarring, I have to admit. And also, another problem that the Phoenix Wright Miles Edgeworth manga tends to have, and this is just a general thing, is that it's not a DS game. Basically, what made the Ace Attorney games so much fun is that they had a lot of time to develop the characters, because it was pretty much like reading a book. So, an Ace Attorney game playthrough will take about 8 to 10 hours to do if you know what you're doing. So, there's a lot of time for reading. So, a normal case will take 4 hours, can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you're doing. Compare that to a volume of a manga, where one volume takes 30 minutes to read, and you're going through multiple cases. Things tend to get a little bit rushed here. And now that's not all bad, you know. It's not all bad there, but still, you know, it's rushed. You can tell that it's rushed because you have to set up characters, and because they have to set up characters and foreshadowing beforehand, it's really easy to tell who the bad guy is supposed to be. So, you know, and also just trying to figure things out yourself was part of what made playing Phoenix Wright so fun to begin with. Now, another problem that these books tend to have is that they make things far too ridiculous. Now, I know Phoenix Wright is generally ridiculous. You know, this is the series where you cross-examine a parrot, for Christ's sake. But here, it seems like it's overly convoluted for no good reason. You know, I know you're supposed to have a suspension of disbelief and stuff like that, but in the Phoenix Wright games, you know, it always felt like there was a reason for things to be that ridiculous, you know? Like, there was a reason for, it always felt justified. Here, the plots seem overly convoluted for no good reason, you know? It just didn't seem realistic. And I know that's sort of an odd thing to say, but it didn't seem plausible in the real world. And that's why it's just confusing, I wouldn't say it's confusing, but I'm having a hard time putting my thoughts into words here. It's too convoluted, and it makes it seem like it's sort of it almost seems like a parody of normal Phoenix Wright plots of how ridiculous it gets, because it never got that ridiculous in the games, and it's ridiculous here. Now, these aren't amazing. All of the Phoenix Wright mangas, they're not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're a fan of the series, you know, the writing's still good. Everybody manages to stay in character. It's a fun read. I'd recommend it if you're a fan of the series. If you're not a fan, I'd say approach with caution. But, you know what, I don't regret owning these. And I'm probably going to pick up the other volumes when they come out. If only just to complete the collection. But yeah, that's just what I think of those. I might be picking up more manga in the future, depending on what looks good, what gets translated, because I'm not, what gets translated is the most important thing, and what's easy to grab. Because, like, when it comes to Pokemon Adventures, they haven't translated the Ruby Sapphire stuff yet, and that's the stuff that I really want to see, because I think Ruby and Sapphire's plot could use the guys working on Adventures to fix it. I know Diamond and Pearl's Adventure Saga is out, but I'm not really in the mood to look at the Diamond and Pearl stuff right now. But yeah, I might do more of these just every once in a while if I read a bunch of stuff that that I want to talk about. But yeah, Pokemon Adventures, great. Ozymandias, amazing. Ace Attorney, it's good. So, yeah, that's the manga I've been reading. I know that this is sort of just a random thing, but you know what? I felt like talking about this. So, yeah, I do have my project burning in the back burner. You know, I've been playing Pokemon White 2, so that's sort of been hampering that. So, I will say that will start eventually. I've got a couple of things I need to prepare for, and nobody has guessed what I'm doing yet, so, yes. But anyway, maybe I'll do more stuff like this some other time. But, for now, I'm ExandShadow, and I'll see you guys later.